The Illusion of Us, Chapter 3. The Suppression of Consciousness. Let's pretend for a moment you are an extraterrestrial species exploring Earth for the first time. You were able to arrive here because of far advanced technologies and have achieved a balanced and peaceful mindset. You enter our solar system and slowly approach the planet, renowned for its wealth of species and unique ecosystems. As you observe from above, you are appalled by what you see. Much of the planet's forests have been cut down and replaced with sprawling urban centers where air quality can be toxic to breathe at times. Large oil slicks and mountains of garbage conglomerate together in the oceans like artificial islands, creating dead zones where no life can survive. Dirty cities belching out thick black smoke are crowded with billions of people, all moving like worker drones in nearly uniform apparel. Seeing explosions and gunfire over war-torn areas, you quickly reel back in disgust, and the first question on your mind is, what happened? The answer to that question can be found here, in understanding how our connection to planet Earth has been completely severed, with our true identity now nothing more than echo lost inside a corrupted collective mindset. Before I begin down the story of our suppression, I want to provide a profound quote which perfectly describes the illusion which has enslaved us and blocked off the truths of our identity. The ultimate tyranny in a society is not control by martial law, but control by the psychological manipulation of consciousness, through which reality is defined so that those who exist within it do not even realize they are in prison. Barbara Marciniak. The following information on the suppression of humanity and consciousness is not meant to scare you, but intended to educate you to the real reality dictating us. Understand that what has been done to our human collective consciousness is a dark story with a very bright ending. The suppression of knowledge and understanding and what it has done to the human species is truly an unsettling concept. Through the control and manipulation of our reality, we have caused and allowed the devastating destruction of our planet. We have stripped Earth of most of its natural beauty and severely polluted much of its land and water. The accumulated effects of our misplaced actions over the last 100 years have transformed the planet into a wasteland of its former self. There is a direct correlation between our actions and linking the newest mass extinction of species occurring right now on Earth. Typically, mass extinctions occur from large space impacts or dramatic climate shifts, but in this case, we ourselves are the direct cause. Human beings are now responsible for the loss of more than 50% of all mammal and reptile species on the planet. Most of these organisms survive for millions of years through apocalyptic scenarios, but in the end, the destructive force of humanity's confusion was too overwhelming for even them. These incredible species have been systematically exterminated because of humanity's blind quest for resources and disconnection to the Earth. In most cases, these special forms of life are gone forever and will exist in nothing more than drawings or photographs. To those unlucky many that may not be important enough to even get this royal treatment, their memory is truly lost in time and forgotten. It's time for mankind to wake up from its long slumber and once again see the spectacular world we call home that is being stolen from all around us as we sleep. I think we have all slept long enough. This disrespect and suppressed lack of understanding has led humanity into a mad race for acquiring resources as quickly as possible, with no thought about the future. The land masses of the planet have been segregated off into countries with artificial boundaries, where a deep ideology for nationalism was created within society. Human beings have been tricked into believing that a simple birthright gives all merit to an elitism attitude and violence aimed at other nations. The fostering of such intense nationalism has blinded billions of people into the complete hatred of others because of where they were born. This deeply rooted nationalism has fiercely segregated society into nothing more than a group of modern nomadic tribes. This continuous competition against one another has prevented nearly all collaboration of new ideas and slowed down the entire expansion of humanity. These clever distractions to our progression are finally beginning to collapse beneath an ever-increasing technologically connected world. This concept of nationalism that has been stoked in our society for thousands of years has led to hatred, gluttony, severe poverty, and instability across the planet. This structure is reinforced by the intense promotion of competition, which begins when we are only children. Whether it is with sports, business, or even societal status, humanity is engineered into a constant state of survival against one another. Instead of a friendly collaboration of ideas with peers, students are pitted against one another in a barbaric matchup for domination. This model for society creates a population who is dominated by ego and greed for themselves. This toxic viewpoint has turned social interactions into a ceaseless barrage of insults and attacks as we continuously compete for everything. There has been a deliberate suppression of consciousness for all developed countries and instability and war in virtually all the rest. Not all of this can be blamed on our simple barbarism and leftover caveman tendencies. This may seem like yet another crazy conspiracy theory, but the evidence behind this information speaks volumes. Once again, when considering these words, become an objective observer who is peering in from outside. The stubborn stigma that is trained so well into the human psyche regarding this information has left us in a permanent state of laughter and denial whenever the subject is brought up. That is the key to all of this. By becoming an observer of our timeline with a completely unbiased viewpoint and no stigma from the past to govern it. If you are not able to separate yourself from absolute rational thinking, it will be difficult to take in the overall scope of the control that we are under. Humanity is living in a giant controlled farm with specific sets of rules put in place to distract us and prevent our awareness of knowing the truth. Most human beings spend the majority of their lives working and have become so accustomed to this ideology of existence that they have become miserable with boredom during their free time. The very phrase free time implies the subtle truth behind the fact that we are actually slaves on this planet. The title, The Illusion of Us, describes the clever means for our own created reality. Because history dictates for us what reality should be, we simply aren't aware of the truths behind what freedom and peace can be. The majority of the human race works for most of their biologically healthiest years, and once they become non-productive, they are finally free to spend the last remaining moments of their life in a state of sickness and confusion. If we don't work, an individual can lose everything in their life and can even die from starvation if they are not able to earn enough money. The idea that we are living in a modern society that takes care of its citizens is as much as an illusion as everything in reality itself. We believe that the government cares about our well-being and growth, yet they poison the very food and water that is so essential to our health. There is an important need to maintain order and stability across a growingly aware society. So many of the methods for the suppression of human consciousness are hiding right in plain sight, but cannot be seen by an unaware, sleeping population. The easiest way to keep a population in order in this farm is by promoting and allowing those individuals who follow the rules and do what they are told the best rewards and greatest success. This game of conformity begins when we are very young and often robs us of much of our full childhood experience. If you conform and act normal, you quickly realize that you get into trouble less and receive more rewards. So naturally, many embrace exactly whatever rules are made and do not question anything. Why risk all you have worked for in your life? Propaganda stories bombard children's minds describing the consequences for veering off from the designated model for society and the results to their future. This clever scare tactic deters any child who considers venturing outside the walls of conformity. If we choose not to conform, we often disappoint our parents and are made to feel like a failure. That lack of moral support for being different is one of the main reasons why so many individuals who have more expansive minds end up with a lack of confidence and self-worth. The long road that must be taken in order to remain different and unique is usually a sad and lonely place for most. So many choose to simply give in and conform and forget about who they really are. But no matter what happens, that spark of uniqueness and wonder processed by so many of these gifted minds will simply lie dormant and wait for a time when it can be accepted and embraced. Some of us have refused to conform to this model of society and consciously reject their influences. Throughout their younger years, many of these individuals were far too busy embracing the wonders of nature to be bothered by such confinement. For these gifted children, their imagination guided them and designed endless adventures around every corner. But even for these dreamers, there was often no escaping the pressures from public school. The pecking order efficiently arranges everyone in their place early and weeds out those who are different. Our education system follows a strict curriculum for what teachers can and need to teach in public school. If a teacher wants to contribute new lessons into a class, which are outside the boundaries of the selected topics chosen, they can be fired and even lose their teaching certificate. This creates a system where students are forced to learn a conformed version for reality to control their developing awareness. If a student receives good grades and conforms, they might be able to attend a decent university and are then allowed to become successful in the game of life. From the very start, the deck is completely stacked for this narrow perspective of success within society, and most importantly within ourselves. Some of us fall right in line with this model of conformity, receiving straight A's on every assignment and then feed off of the energy of encouragement to become patriotic defenders of the system. Those proud parents parade around with bumper stickers boldly displaying the achievements of their child. But the real question is, what did they learn? Conformity is almost mandatory if you wish to succeed in this social game and fiercely rejects those who don't. John F. Kennedy said, "Conformity is jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth." Public school is where society is given a controlled view on what to learn and how to act. In many ways, it can be equated to a military-like education system. This new model for education has become an indoctrination of the youth into becoming perfect citizens. It teaches them only the skills and knowledge they need to receive basic jobs and where to fit in within a hierarchy of who is considered important. If you feel your child deserves a better education, then you better have a great deal of money and hope that they have been privileged enough to be born with light skin color. Thank you for saying that, Matthew. In this modern society ruled through money, fair and equal opportunities for learning take a back seat when it comes to providing a consistent education for all citizens. We must strongly reevaluate the reasons for why so many children simply cannot concentrate or have any interest in so much of what is being taught. Students become buried with homework, stealing away whatever precious free time they had left. When you look at this from the outside as an observer, you wonder when a child developing is ever able to have their own thoughts. They have been robbed of fully experiencing the connections of Mother Nature and their most vital resource of all, time. How many of the classes taught in school connect us to the earth or the stars above our heads and challenge us to think outside a tightly scripted view of reality? The modern-day education system has been designed to create an ignorant average worker who is unaware of the truths of reality. By controlling our education, they control the information that leads to our growth and comprehension later in life. Consider the different individuals in school who become friends and later stick together in groups to avoid being alone during these difficult development years. In our society, these groups have been broken out and categorized for us based on status. It can be seen plastered through our movies, media, and subconsciously trained into our psyche itself. These segregated people receive nearly lifetime labels simply because they are smart or different. Based on that segregation from other children, these social groups are usually cast out from popularity and constantly ridiculed. Thrown away like garbage, these unique individuals are the keys to our very success in the future. The guards that keep this pecking order in place use bullying to fuel their egos, derived from the very system that created them. This hierarchy structure infused into all of society governs how we think we should act and where we belong. This system heavily favors the more conformed crowd and separates out those who are different into a life of misery and loneliness in the hopes that they will someday just give up and finally conform. Later on in life, those children who constantly daydreamed and refused to settle for conformity will become the very same ones who will provide breakthroughs to innovation and technology. These special individuals are the keys to humanity's future as they have the gift of imagination and the ability to create. Despite this, society measures success only through those who become wealthy or famous, and this false ideology is believed by the masses who pride themselves on generic jobs and the illusion of happiness in a stiflingly boring existence. No such deviation from this model is considered normal or accepted by anyone. Even those who live in nice neighborhoods are immediately strange and suspect if they do not conform perfectly to the rules. This conditioned fear and ridicule for those who are different, which has embedded itself deep into the psyche of society, protects the very stability of the system itself, which manifests this illusion through its own desperate need to survive. Our growing insecurity of one another has turned whole communities into scared strangers, hiding behind endless no trespassing signs. Years of fear propaganda have altered the entire structure of neighborhoods to where children rarely play outside any longer. This disruption of vital childhood development will alter the growth of society for generations to come. We must question the true motivation behind our children's exponential increase in safety, which is wrapped in the clever mirage of compassion. Parents that have succumbed to fear propaganda are under the illusion that their child is safer locked inside, while unknowingly stealing so much of their needed growth, while they pig away on junk food and get little exercise. These fear tactics ripple through every fabric of society and help to falsely define reality for us. You quickly realize that there is a game very much in place to create a generic society who follows all rules. It favors those who play it correctly and continuously challenges and pushes aside those who do not. Like disciplined soldiers in an army, the population is kept orderly and in its place. The most loyal group in this control system are those who are under the false impression that they have achieved great success by following its rules and fiercely defend its survival. They derive this logic through the over-dominance of the human ego, manifested through years of conditioning to create bullies who protect their suppression for all of society. These overly patriotic individuals will verbally or even physically attack another human who differs from the derived viewpoint. Even more outrageous is the fact that they forcefully defend a system of control that enslaves their mind with fear, but offers them nothing in return but a life of sadness. Reality is built out of the collective mindsets from the past, so through controlling incoming information, everything in the future can be engineered towards a planned outcome. The true definition of our slavery does not merely lie in the control of our freedoms and thoughts, but through physical labor as well. We are brainwashed into believing we should work as many hours as possible and then come home and waste our free time staring at an electronic box, projecting mindless shows and propaganda. The portrayal of men promoted throughout our culture constantly features them working long hours and then returning home to indulge in free time as long as they watch a barbaric sport on television, which strongly encourages violence and strong masculine strength. On the other side, women in society are expected to fall in line with predetermined gender roles, promoting constant childbearing and widespread ignorance as being their purpose for existence. We must tear down these antiquated gender roles still ruling humanity and allow the freedom of the individual to dictate their future. Everything in our society is dominated by how we think we should be acting to fit in with one another. Working a job for the majority of our life and then being tied down by mortgages, bills, and even in some cases a family, there leaves little room to find out who we really are as an individual. The most important commodity we have is time, and that has been nearly stolen from us. Once a person can finally retire, old and sick from being systematically poisoned and overworked, most of their lives are already over. This human life we have is so precious that we absolutely must not waste it. Our very existence should be viewed as the ultimate gift and cherished for every second that we are able to have our eyes open and the ability for our lungs to take their next breath. That concludes the end of this section. Peace and blessings to you all.